Once upon a time, Witchy lived in the quiet but spooky Transylvania Forest, where she'd been casting spells to her heart's content for centuries. She and her cauldron Enchantra kept themselves busy in her cottage deep in the woods, where she conjured up all sorts of fascinating magic and a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches. You can never have too many grilled cheese sandwiches. I agree, Witchy. Yum. Anyway, for a century or two, or perhaps more, she had been dating the handsome and much younger 712-year-old Vladimir the Vampire, doing her best to ignore his obvious flirtations with the other witches. The fact that he was much younger than Witchy was something that always poked at her insecurities. Not that she'd ever admit to having any. That's because I don't have any. Are you going to let me tell your story or not? Sorry. Thank you. But I don't have any. Oh, for heaven's sake, Witchy, stick a sock in it or we'll be here all day. All right. One night, a terrifying something happened to Witchy that she refuses to discuss. All she says is that a secret trauma forced her to become vegan. But to be honest, she's a bit of a drama queen, so personally, I'll bet it was something really minor. Excuse me, something really minor? It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Oh, okay, Witchy, whatever you say. Well, that is what I say. Okay, sorry. So, apparently, she was traumatized and forced to become vegan, which she hasn't particularly been enjoying. No, I really haven't. But I'll give her credit, she's doing the best she can. Anyway, after refusing to kill anything anymore, she could no longer eat or use eye of newt, bat wings, dragon toes, or other essential spellcasting goodies. As she puts it, all her spells went wonky, with one hilarious disaster after another. Hilarious! Hilarious! What are you talking about? They were utterly humiliating. Sorry, Witchy. I couldn't read my own writing. I meant with one dreadfully upsetting disaster after another. That is more like it. She became the laughingstock of the forest, and all the other witches shunned her. Adding insult to injury, Vladimir dumped poor Witchy, making a polite excuse about them being incompatible all of a sudden. Because his survival depended on his craving for blood, he claimed that he had developed an allergy to her vegan breath that was bordering on anaphylaxis. But Witchy knew that wasn't the truth. He had always been far too concerned with what others thought of him, which was reflected in his obsessive grooming habits. He would never leave the coffin without even one hair out of place or a fang left unpolished. So when poor Witchy and her disastrous spells became the talk of the forest, she was painfully aware that he was thoroughly embarrassed by the snickering and pointing. Everywhere they went, there was whispering and giggling, and Witchy could feel him wanting to disappear into the forest floor. That was the last straw, after all I'd done for him for a couple 100 years and all the sacrifices I'd made, including giving up garlic in all my favorite foods like rat brain stew or sweet and sour lizard hearts. I had to face the truth about him. He was a pinhead. Yes, Witchy, he really was. And now I put garlic in everything just because I can. I even put it in my ice cream. Yum. So, desperately in need of a fresh start and a whole new beginning, she packed up her cauldron, her toothbrush, and her stamp collection and headed west. Now she lives in England, having found a tiny cottage in the woods near a quiet village. It's my fixer-upper, isn't it beautiful? A few flowers in a pot, a bit of lace on the window, it'll be perfect. She's doing her best to adapt to a completely different culture. She's especially happy to have discovered a few things that are helping with her adjustment to a new life. The first was a very big deal. Remember the noodles, Witchy? Oh, noodles, those are so good. I'd never heard of them until I came here. I guess there are no noodle trees in the Transylvania Forest. At least I never saw any. She liked them even more once she found out that you're supposed to cook them. She's also become a fan of homebrew beer. Apparently, a cauldron can be used for more than just casting spells and cooking food. Another favorite discovery? Oh dear, it was tequila. although there was no alcohol in the Transylvania Forest, so she doesn't understand why she never remembers the things people say she did after drinking it. I think they're making it up. Nope, Witchy, they're not. Here's the photographic evidence. That is not evidence, it is photoshopped. Hmm, does my bum look big on that? Still nursing her broken heart upon her arrival in England, the last thing which she wanted to do was fall in love again. But you know, they say it happens when you're least expecting it, and that's just how it unfolded for Witchy. There she was, minding her own business, when Cupid's arrow pierced her heart once again. The new love of her life is Simon Cowell. That reminds me, Witchy, have you managed to let Mr. Cowell know about this yet? Well, if you count throwing paper airplane love letters from across the street into his garden, yes. From across the street? You haven't even talked to him in person? Well, it's a bit tricky now that I am legally obliged to stay at least 50 meters away from him at all times. Oh dear, poor Witchy. Oh, the very thought of him makes me swoon. Yes, our little Witchy is smitten with Simon Cowell. She kisses a photo of him goodnight as the sun is coming up before catching a few hours' sleep. Witchy's story is one of ongoing healing and transformation, and she's excited to share all she's learned and done to find her way back to happiness. She's also excited to make you laugh. Because of her own journey, her mission is now to light up the world with hope, healing, and humor. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.